Holden Caulfield, the protagonist and narrator of J.D. Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye, remains one of the most iconic figures in modern American literature. Through his cynical observations, fragmented storytelling, and profound emotional vulnerability, Salinger crafts Holden as both a symbol of adolescent rebellion and a profoundly human portrayal of a young man struggling to find authenticity in a world he perceives as phony. Role in the narrative. Holden Caulfield serves as both the narrator and central consciousness of The Catcher in the Rye. The entire novel unfolds through his subjective, first-person narration, creating an intimate portrait of his inner world during the few days following his expulsion from Pensy Prep. This narrative structure enables readers to experience not only the events Holden recounts, but also his mental and emotional turmoil in real time. Holden's storytelling is intentionally unreliable. His digressions, exaggerations, and contradictions mirror the instability of his psychological state. His role as narrator reflects the novel's psychological realism. Salinger captures the fluid, disjointed nature of teenage thought and identity formation. Holden's unreliability does not make him deceptive but rather deeply human. His confusion and contradictions reveal his internal struggle to reconcile innocence with the complexity of adult life. Narratively, Holden also functions as the lens through which the reader critiques society. Every encounter he has, whether with classmates like Stradlater and Ackley, with teachers like Mr. Spencer and Mr. Antolini, or with strangers in New York, reveals his acute sensitivity to hypocrisy, insincerity, and moral decay. His interactions expose not only his alienation, but also Salinger's commentary on the post-war American culture of conformity. In this sense, Holden is both participant and observer. He drifts through a world he cannot belong to, but his perspective unmasks the flaws beneath its polished surface. A tension between sensitivity and cynicism defines Holden's character. Beneath his scorn for the phoniness of others lies an intense emotional vulnerability. His loneliness is palpable. Despite his constant criticism of people, he longs for a genuine human connection. His failed attempts to reach out to Sally Hayes, to the nuns, to the prostitute Sunny, reveal his confusion about intimacy and his fear of rejection. Holden's psychological fragility becomes increasingly evident as the narrative progresses. His erratic thoughts, exhaustion, and moments of despair suggest symptoms of depression and post-traumatic grief. Salinger never explicitly labels Holden's condition, but the narrative's tone and pacing evoke a portrait of mental breakdown. Yet even in his breakdown, Holden's narration contains moments of clarity and compassion, suggesting that his sensitivity, though painful, also represents his capacity for genuine empathy and moral awareness. Symbolic significance. Holden Caulfield's symbolic significance centers on innocence, alienation, and the struggle against corruption. The title of the novel itself comes from Holden's fantasy of being the catcher in the rye, a savior figure who stands in a field of rye and catches children before they fall off a cliff, symbolically preventing them from losing their innocence and plunging into the corrupted world of adulthood. This vision defines Holden's self-conception. He longs to protect purity and resist the moral compromises he associates with growing up. However, Holden's fantasy also reveals the tragic futility of his idealism. His desire to catch children, mainly his sister Phoebe, reflects both his tenderness and his misunderstanding of life's inevitable progression. His resistance to maturity mirrors his inability to accept death, especially the death of his younger brother Allie, whose loss continues to haunt him. Allie symbolizes everything unspoiled and genuine, and Holden's grief manifests as a desperate need to preserve the kind of innocence Allie embodied. His interactions with Phoebe, one of the few characters he genuinely loves and trusts, show his conflicted awareness that innocence cannot be permanently protected. Phoebe's willingness to face the world contrasts with Holden's paralysis, underscoring the painful truth that growing up, while difficult, is unavoidable. Holden's red hunting hat is another powerful symbol. It represents his individuality and nonconformity, yet he wears it inconsistently, putting it on when he feels insecure or rebellious and removing it in moments of vulnerability. The hat becomes a visible marker of his internal conflict. He wants to assert his uniqueness while simultaneously yearning for a sense of belonging. Broader implications. Beyond his role within the novel, Holden Caulfield has become a cultural symbol of post-war youth rebellion and existential questioning. Published in 1951, The Catcher in the Rye resonated with a generation that was confronting the emptiness of consumerism and the pressure to conform in rapidly modernizing America. Holden's rejection of societal expectations, his critique of materialism, and his search for authenticity anticipated the countercultural movements of the 1960s. His disillusionment embodies a universal adolescent struggle, the painful transition from innocence to experience, idealism to disillusionment. Holden also occupies a central place in the literary tradition of the anti-hero. His rebellion is not violent or overtly political. It is internal, psychological, and deeply personal. This makes him both relatable and revolutionary. His refusal to conform challenges readers to question the authenticity of their own values. Holden represents the modern individual's crisis of meaning in an alienating world. His narrative highlights the challenges of maintaining moral integrity and emotional honesty in a culture dominated by superficiality. In this sense, The Catcher in the Rye transcends its context as a coming-of-age story and becomes an existential reflection on human isolation. Holden's voice, raw, self-contradictory, and painfully honest, captures the struggle to remain sensitive in a world that rewards detachment. Conclusion. Holden Caulfield's enduring power as a literary character lies in his complexity. He is not simply a rebellious teenager or a misunderstood youth. He is a profoundly human figure torn between the longing for purity and the inevitability of corruption. Holden's journey does not lead to resolution or maturity in the conventional sense, but rather to a fragile awareness of his own limitations, a first step towards self-understanding. In this way, The Catcher in the Rye remains a profound meditation on what it means to grow up, to grieve, and ultimately, to be human.